So if you have an attending artist, do you still sling them out the room while you're doing some of the work, or do you let them watch you?
I let them watch me. If they want to attend, they've got to attend. Like,
Yeah.
And I don't really let them talk. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're like, well, I'm like, just give us a few more minutes, like, then we can have the discussion.
There's nothing worse, is there? The bass drops. I'm still hearing it. Piss off.
The fucking bass drum's muted at the moment for a very specific reason. Shut the fuck up. Like,
it's a nightmare.
And I flick between stuff so fast. It's kind of good because I think that doesn't give them a chance.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
Are you a bit of a? I know I was always, when I was working at Mixing Days, it was a bit of a sort of random access mixing.
Super random. Yeah, it just makes no sense what I'm doing. And I'll like solo like 4 random things. But it's because I want to hear how they work together. But to the artist, they're like, "Why are you doing that?" Like,
so what is this project you're doing then? What is this mixing?
So this at the moment,
if you're able to tell us.
So I was doing yesterday is for this guy called Crumb, which is on 37 Adventures, just to hear. But they literally signed him yesterday. Like I think he signed yesterday.
Hot new talent.
Yeah. So, but it's really good.
What sort of stuff's that then?
It's like electronic. It's electronic music, but there's like a nice kind of like grittiness to it. There's something quite nice and musical about it.
So
it's very simple.
Has that been recorded here then? Is it?
No, he did it all at home.
Yeah.
He's from Leeds, I believe. So that was pretty chill. But then for the next kind of 5 days, not including this weekend, I'm working with Lapsley, who's on XL. So which is great. So I'm finishing off her record. I mean, I haven't done all of it, but I've got 5 days of her now, I think, to finish it all. Yeah. So, which is really exciting.
You worked with her before, haven't you? I heard the mix.
Yeah. So I just did that single, and then I'm doing 5 more.
Fantastic.
Which is great, because I really like what she does. So.
Has she got the same management as you?
Yeah, she does. Yeah. Works really well. But it's kind of cool because it's come from quite a lot of other work that I've done with Hamish, her manager's artists. It's not just like, I've had to like prove myself a bit.
I'm sure.
To him.
Well, there's a lot of other good people on the roster.
Exactly.
As well.
I think they've got a guy called Tom Elmhurst. I believe is on the roster. I think I know him. But yeah, so it's nice because I'm starting to do more and more for the management. Yeah. But they like it as well because it just keeps it in house. Yeah. And it suits everyone.
And they still pay you properly, I hope.
They definitely pay me properly. My manager sorts that out. It's fine. Luckily, we've all got different managers. Yeah. So it's so it's actually quite nice, and no one gets fucked over. And
how far ahead are you booked up? What have you got coming up?
At the moment, it's pretty. It all depends on the time. Like sometimes I like have like a massive run of work, and then suddenly I realise in 3 days I am unemployed. Like what the fuck?
Something always turns up though.
Something always turns. It's so weird, and like. Fingers crossed and touch wood and everything. It hasn't happened yet where I've had like a massive dry spell, but so far it's so at the moment I've got this. I've got doing this, and then I'm doing a mix for Daughter, which is great, which I'm very excited about because I've always been a fan of them. And then actually, when I was out in the States, I met the Steely Dan guitarist, John Harrington.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So he's been with them for like 15 years, I believe. Right. Played like a couple of studio albums with them, but like because they've just had this whole thing at, is it the Beacon Theatre? Maybe it's not the Beacon Theatre. They've had it just six, 7 days. Steely Dan have just had straight through where they're playing just different albums every night. Right. Wow. They're just in that position. Yeah. So he was in New York. I think he's from New York anyway, but he was just in New York. So the studio I was working in there, this place called Atomic, which is a beautiful studio. But anyway, he recorded the album there, all to tape, really lovely sounding. Yeah. And the guy who owns the studio, because I worked there when I was in New York before I moved back here, was just like, you looking for a mix or anything? There's a guy I can recommend. So I met up with him and he showed me the album. It's fucking cool. It's basically just how I remember growing up. Like what my mum used to listen to, like Tom Petty, a bit of Tom Waits in there. Yeah. Strange, like some of the musical kind of elements. But the Beatles, the Stones, Steely Dan. It's like, it's just like for me, would be a pleasure to mix because it's not like I'm battling against fucking loudness and Radio 1.
And will you mix from tape or will you put it all into?
It's already been digitized. Right, just for, but I'm now just deciding whether I do it here. I'd rather do it here, but I think I might have to go to New York. I'm not sure. It all depends on what he wants. Yeah. But yeah, so that's happening, and then this other album for this guy called Will Joseph Cook, who's really fucking good. and then that's it at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's a good couple of months' work.
No
It
doubt.
takes me
Take
to
you
the
to
end of the
Christmas.
year. Yeah. And then I think there's an album I'm supposed to be doing in January, which is recording and mixing. So
Right.
that'll be all
Do
January.
you do much recording these days then? Because you're sort of.
Well,
You seem to have done lots of mixing recently.
yeah. Well, basically, it's been kind of I haven't, and then I went to the States, and then suddenly did.
Right.
There's quite a lot of tracking that I did over this last few weeks. You might not be able to use this, but I just did 3 days with Adele.
Right.
For the new record with the Dap Kings and Mark Ronson.
Okay.
Which was pretty fucking stressful. And all to 8-track.
Wow.
Which was also amazing.
Very stressful.
Yeah, very fucking stressful. Especially when there's loads of pre-programmed stuff in Tools. And then they want to be able to hear that, but want to go to 8-track and have a click.
Wow.
And strike the tape and record a full band live.
So it's 7-track.
Yeah, it will end up being 5-track because of everything we had to put together. So yeah, but recording a full band with 5 microphones was interesting.
Yeah. Is it going to be in mono?
It's definitely very mono. There's definitely a mono vibe to it. But no, that was obviously amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just was a lot of work to be quick, because you know it was like it would go to tape and then straight away be dumped to Tools. But there would be a lot of comping and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, like all the pre-programmed stuff. It was a case of, you know, bouncing all that to one track on tape, and then when I dump back into Tools, then lining that up, and but then we'd end up having to re-time everything so it was live. But you know what I mean? Because it was to a click, but they don't play to the click, the Dap Kings at all. It was just kind of like a sub-thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty stressful. But
so how did you do that? How did you line it up? Do you chop things up? And
well, a lot of it was just before every take. In the program stuff, I would just have one full wave that I would just have at the beginning. So whenever it hit tape, I just have somewhere that I could just snap to really quickly. But the way I did it was that everything I was dumping to Tools was just right at the very end of the session, and I just throw it all back really quickly. So that we always had, here was always the master session as such, and then at the end were all the takes. Then I could just keep flying them over, and then everything started getting playlisted. So we do like 4 takes at a time for the tape, just so we could just keep rolling.
When you're putting the stuff back in, how do you keep sync? Do you
yeah, so we synced everything, so it was all striped, so everything was running. It was all locked. Yeah, it was all totally locked. But obviously that takes another fucking track of tape. But yeah, so then whenever, you know, and then it will go in, and I'd just be able to throw it back, and it would be bang on.
But then you've been chopping up what they played to put them a bit more on
no, actually, we chopped everything that was already there, which was quite nice. So it didn't.
So you didn't mess with their performance.
No.
You basically did identify beat and then make the program stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of tabs transient really quickly, so the Mark could just listen straight away. It was a lot of work, but it was just a lot of like playlisting and being very aware of where you were with the playlists and being able to just go between them, because he would want to hear like 3 different things all one after another, but you wouldn't have time to be like, give me a second, I just need to sort this one out, and then just have to be like full playlists of like all playlists just going through. So I had like a pad of paper with like scribbles on it, and
keeps you on your toes then.
It definitely kept me on toes, especially because the place we were doing it, the Dap Kings place, which is in Long Island City, it's their kind of newest place. They've only just been there, I think, like coming up 2 years. Is not set up to do that.
No.
We had to hire in a Sync.io. It was one of them, because they do everything to tape, and then they just dump to Tools. But they don't care what it does, because they don't have pre-programmed stuff.
No.
But it was the fact that all this pre-programmed stuff was so important.
So what was it? The pre-programmed stuff? Was it percussion or synths?
There was a lot of synths, some drum stuff, just bits and pieces. There was some really lovely guitars actually. I can't remember what the guy's name was. This guitar player who'd done like a lot of atmospheric stuff where his guitar did not sound like a guitar. Apparently he does quite a lot of stuff with Eno. Right. But it was beautiful, like phenomenal, like the cleanest I've ever heard a guitar sound. It was obviously made it problematic. And then at one point, you know, it would get to a stage where we had like sounding really cool, everyone was really happy, but you know, we just couldn't get like the hat accentuation we needed, so then it was like we need a hat mic as well. So then I would have to record that to Tools, everything else to tape, and then sync all that up and make sure it was phase aligned, all in like one fell swoop.
You mixed it in with everything else on the tape.
Well, this is the thing. I was like, can we do that? Like, I was like, Mark, do you mind? And he was just like, I just need it to be. It's like, okay, well, it's going to take me a few minutes to sort that out and get my head around it. So we would have tools running, and it was just a lot of stuff. Yeah, especially because there's a 16-track machine in the fucking studio as well, which I didn't want to use. So. But yeah, so I did that, and then I then spent 5 days with Haim as well, with Mark again.
Right.
But that was a writing session, but it was good fun.
Great.
Yeah, good fun. A lot more. Wasn't tape, so I just could do whatever I wanted, which was nice.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so it's just a busy time. But I'm trying to get more into tracking and stuff. But to be honest, I know how fickle the industry can be, and the way that like people see me at the moment is as a mix engineer, which I'm totally fine with. I have absolutely no qualms with that at all. I love mixing. It's amazing. So why try and change something that isn't a problem? So it's kind of been like that really. Because I mean, my end goal really is to be a producer. I don't really want to be a mix engineer for the rest of my life. As much as I love it, I want to be able to actually produce, and not in like in a very traditional sense. Like, I like bands coming in. I like to work with bands. I don't want to be like a beat maker or not that I have any problems with that. They're amazing, but it's not what I do. No. And I'm not trying to ever do that. I don't ever want to do that. It's just not interesting to me. If I want to beat make, I can get him in, or get her in, or it's just like. But I don't need to sit down with an MPC for the next 5 years learning how to do it. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm. I'm not rushing. I want I need to get.
How old are you, Ben? If you don't mind.
27.
27, right? Because you went to university, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So how did you? Let's wind the clock back. How did you get to the biz? Tell us a bit about the sort of path you've got to, how you got to where you are now.
So I came up to university in a band. So we all moved to university together. I went to uni.
And what was the course?
It was music tech at Thames Valley, which is now University of West London, I believe. But really, what happened there is that I just had really great lecturers. Right. It was the guys and ladies that ran the course that actually changed my whole view of everything. Yeah.
Were they people who'd been successful in the industry then? Or?
Well, the main lecturer who really did kind of change it all for me was this guy Pip Williams.
Oh right,
who's obviously
I've made two for it.
Yeah, fucking legend. I love that guy so much. Yeah, exactly. And he just opened my eyes to it and just was like, because he's the way he would teach was very like, just do it the way you do it. Don't if people like the way you do it, then do it that way. Don't try and be someone else. But anyway, so then I left the band, and then basically started interning at Metropolis.
And how did that come about? Did you?
I did it because it was the closest studio to where I lived.
Did you go and knock on the door? And
I actually just sent an email. I was so lazy. I couldn't even be fucked to go to Chiswick. But and
it's different in my day.
Yeah.
Write lots of letters.
But the chief at the time, Sam Wheat, who was very, very helpful for me and showed me a lot. But he did the same course. Yeah. And that's why he gave me the interview. Because he was just like, I understand what you're doing, and it was great. And then started interning there, and basically just realised that was all I wanted to do, and there was nothing else that really mattered to me at all. And so, even though I was interning like 3 days a week, I would end up being there like 5 to 7 days a week. Just was like, look, if you needed me for anything.
So what great sessions did you assist on in those days? Did you manage to sort of sneak in some exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I was like I started being on like all the live to vinyl stuff they were doing, which was cool, just to see, just to like, even though you'd be stood at the back of the room, not really being able to see anything that was going on. It was just like, oh my God, this is how it works. There's an assistant. You start learning the places of people and who shuts up and who talks all the time and who shouldn't talk all the time and stuff like that. And then at the time, funny enough, Chenzo and Tom were looking for new assistants. Right. It was like the perfect time to be in a studio like that. And so they were all they were trying out loads of people. And Chenzo got his new guy, Sean, who's also absolutely... We started the same day as interns, which was crazy. And then Tom tried every other intern apart from me. And basically, I was the last person he tried. He tried fucking. I swear he tried like people he'd already tried just to see, just to double check that they didn't work. But yeah, and I found out later on it was because he thought I was too tall. And he thought my hair would be problematic. And he thought I was too much of a presence in the studio. Yeah. Which I understand. I'm a tall guy, you know. I take up quite a lot of room. But it basically all changed. I was called in to sit outside the room on a Winehouse recording session that he was doing, and it was for this covers album that she was, and she basically was doing it for Quincy. It was Quincy Jones covers album of everything he produced. So she was doing it as my party, right? And so she was coming in to do the vocal for it, and it was like a Sunday. And I just sat outside the room for hours waiting, and then she never showed up. And then Tom came out and was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I was just called in, you know, if you guys want anything, and blah blah blah." And he was like, "Just come in the room, and you know, then we got chatting, and then he was like, "Look, I'm looking for a new assistant." He says, "None of this is guaranteed. If you want to come and sit in the room, see how you get on, you know, you should do it. Like we'll talk a bit more." And then that was it basically, and got in the room with him, and then
you've obviously naturally got a good personality to get on with people.
Yeah. You should see me. Like normally, I'm a complete arsehole. The studio makes me into a bearable person. No, and then. Yeah, it just kind of, I just got on with him, and that was it. That was all that mattered, and like, he knew he could trust me, and I knew what his job was, and I knew what my job was, and it was very, very, very clear.
So you've been there long enough to have learnt.
Yeah, and I was just aware of it. I've always been quite a perceptive person, which has been like a downfall, but also can be very helpful in times, and so. As soon as I realised that, I was like, I just know what I have to do. I have to just be there for him. And then I did a year of training with his old assistant, Dan Parry, who's now obviously doing amazing mixes and stuff like that. He's a great engineer. And Dan was also a great teacher. And basically the two of them just taught me how you're supposed to be and like what you're supposed to do. And then started with Tom, and then kind of a year and a half in, you know, it's just really great records, you know, like 21 and there was loads of stuff we were doing. It was just always busy. And then year and a half in, he kind of just came in and was like, right, so I'm going to move to the States. I was like, all right, cool. I've lost my job kind of thing. And I was like, it's amazing, you know. And he was like, I'm going to need you to come with me. And I was just like, this is quite a lot to just come in on like a Tuesday morning, whatever day it was, and be like, I need you to do this. And I was like, okay, cool. So when are you thinking of moving? He was like, next couple of months. I was like, okay, I've got a long-time girlfriend. I've got my whole life here. My family lives here. All my friends are here. He was like, well, it's up to you, man. You can do what you want. I was like, you're supposed to fucking help. But yeah, and then, you know, that's kind of when everything totally changed.
Yeah.
And I realised that this wasn't just like a job anymore. It's my life. And so then made the jump. And when we got to Electric Lady, it was just like...
How did you tell your long-term girlfriend?
Split up. No, we tried it, and then it was just, you know, understandably, she worked a normal 9-to-5 job. I don't expect her to understand, you know, it's very difficult. And then especially when I was on a different time zone, working even more, and in different city, different culture, everything, it was just like, it just made sense. But when we got to New York, me and Tom kind of spoke about it, and it was like, right, we're gonna, you know, we're turning up to one of the most legendary studios in the whole world. By turning up there, you're showing a level of intent, like what you're about to do. And I kind of was like, I'm gonna show up too, you know, like I want the rooms that we have, because we basically got the live room as well, which we'd never had before.
What made him move to there then? Was there a particular project?
He'd always wanted to, from what he said, but like I think from doing Amy Winehouse, then doing Adele, he had enough there was enough to him by that point. It wasn't just like he was a UK mixer, he was a world mixer. Like people knew who he was, and they knew the level he could get to. And obviously just the amount that 21 sold in the States meant that suddenly, you know, Columbia, the record label out there, were like, Tom, we need you to mix the hits because you just mixed them. And, you know, Rolling in the Deep changed the whole world, essentially. You know, it kept a lot of lights on and made a lot of people very wealthy and stuff like that. And I think he just saw it as the right time to do it. It's either now or never, you know. He would either just be a UK mixer, or he could actually be the kind of big US mixer as well. And so and then it was one of those things where everything kind of happened really, really well. Studio C and Electric Lady just became free. They were doing all this work on the top floor, so there was no one working in there.
Right.
It just was one of those things. It just all lined up very, very easily. And he went and looked at a lot of studios in New York and stuff. So, so we basically arrived, and because we had the live room, we basically made a very conscious decision to up the level on the output of that studio of what we were going to be doing. And so basically, I put together a whole studio in the live room so that we could track.
Right.
But also that the computers were networked, so I could be doing anything while he was working, and we would never get in the way of each other. It was like suddenly.
So you had a control room in the live room as well.
Yeah. So I we had like Pro Tools HD rig, pair of KRKs, it was 1081s, 1176s. We had everything in there. But it was just a 16 IO kind of thing. But
you could record.
We could record. Technically, we could mix.
Yeah.
I had like a Yamaha PM1000, one of those like 70s live boards in there. But we got it modded so it had direct outs, and it had a particular sound. And it was funny, we would start doing stuff and then Tom would be like, you need to go and put it through the desk because I need that sound. And it was, because it didn't have any line ins, it had mic ins, but it would gain really nicely. And suddenly it was just like, we were in this space, and then people realised we were in the space. And they realised Tom was in the space. I'm not taking, but it was good because with that, there was so many more opportunities. We would have Arcade Fire in, we'd have Beck in, we would have fucking everyone in.
Yeah.
They were just, everyone was there.
Was it not a bit daunting sometimes?
Yeah, it was petrifying. Like you do like a 6-week session with Arcade Fire, there's a million of them around every day, every second. We were working 20-hour days.
Oh, can you just run a sort of...
But this is what we allowed, is that they didn't have to be like, oh no, we can't do that because it's not possible. It's like, can we just do that? And they'd be like, yeah, all the time. And we ended up taking the studio next door as well, the API room. So I was running between 2 studios all the time.
And did you have assistants running around for you as well?
We had, who's now Tom's assistant now, this guy called Joe. He was like our third.
Yeah.
And so, but they also had their engineer there. There was just a lot of people, and it had to all be possible. There was never a time where it could not be possible. And it was a lot, and like we do 6 weeks with that, no days off. Then the last day they're like, yeah, so we've got Bowie coming in to do vocals, and I'm like not even aware. I'm suffering with exhaustion, and I'm like, sorry. And Tom's like, yeah, cool. So just you need to do all this whole session, but I had to engineer it, and like, but that's what it allowed. Yeah. And Tom knew that I was capable of doing that. Yeah. So through the whole trust thing that I set in stone, as soon as I started working with him, it was just like, he knew that I was capable of doing it, so he would just leave me alone. And that's basically where we got to the point, is like, I would basically be his engineer, I wouldn't be his assistant anymore. And that was how it worked. And so there would be times where I would just be in the control room with the artist or with the band or with the producer or whatever, and I would just be doing stuff. Not taking away from Tom's, Tom was the mixer, he will always be the mixer, it's him who did every record, but like, I would be doing stuff that he didn't have to do anymore. He had to focus on the mix, didn't have to focus on getting certain things right. It's just, he'd done it for long enough, and he knew that I could do it. Yeah. So why not get your assistant to it? And I was appreciative because it made me able to do it.
So would you say you started to have a bit more of a creative input as well?
Yeah.
Going on there,
yeah.
Just actually just strip in silence or something.
Yeah. That was just like that was just stuff that I didn't even realise I was doing anymore. Yeah. It'd be just fine. Like prepping sessions just became easy, and there would be like we went through a whole stage where every day I put the vocal just to tape, just because why not?
Right.
And then I just give him both, and then he decide. And it was always like I just give him loads of options that I thought maybe could work, and then he would either use them or he wouldn't. And there was nothing personal.
Have a clear head to check them, I suppose.
Yeah. And
so what happens now, for example? So this multi-track, you've got somebody's recorded it at home. Is that been done in Logic or something? And then and who's converted it for you? And
so they just sent me the stems, just like.
Have you done all the prep?
Yeah. Don't trust anyone. That's the only problem I'm finding at the moment, is because I did it for so long.
Assistant, don't you?
Yeah, and
I'm available after Christmas.
But no, it's kind of nice actually, because I feel like it's the rite of passage. I don't feel like I deserve one yet. In all honesty, I can still do it. Yeah, I just.
So what do? You get continuous WAVs.
Yeah.
And then you've done a strip silence and
and just bounced a couple of things down and
got it a bit organised.
Yeah, super organised.
Got the tracks
drums.
Do you send out? I mean, do you ask for certain things?
Just dry vocals. That's it. Everything else.
You don't ask them to sort of put them in the right order for you or anything, or
they probably wouldn't do it right anyway. No. Yeah.
Because when you get a bunch of WAVs and it's got the name of the song, the name of the band, track 01, and then it's got what it is, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just always say make it as simple as possible. Yeah. But I always ask for absolutely everything. Like, I don't want anything bounced down unless they know what, like, they know.
Do you ask for a rough mix? Do you get
definitely? And so important.
What do you do? How do you work with the rough mix? Is that the first thing you do? Is listen to that, or do you get all the tracks in and then stare at it and then go, I wonder what the rough mix sounds like? Or...
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do actually. Yeah. So
you put it in the session, do you? Is that it at the top?
Yeah, it's at the top, and then it's just off an external, and then it's flicked between the two. Yeah. Because it's so important, like, because the way I think about a song might just be completely different to them, and you just don't know how long they've spent on it, and it's almost disrespectful, I think, if you don't listen to their rough. Just for me personally, I feel like, obviously everyone has their own way, but like.
I suppose there's always a possibility if they've recorded it somewhere and they don't actually like the rough mix, if somebody's done a rough mix.
And I always hope that they'll say something about that. And then hopefully if they don't like it, I'll listen to them like, what the fuck is going on with this? But like, I just, it's just certain things, like the way that they'll have things sitting. It's just, they have obviously done it for a reason.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, then it would be good if they let me know. But so yeah, I always go back and forth between that. And then I just go as fast as possible.
Right.
I don't like to spend more than a day on a song because it's just, I go a bit crazy, and or even, to be honest, more than 9 hours on a song I think is a little bit too much for me. Which can be hard because there's some songs that need more than 9 hours.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of breaks, and I don't like to work for more than half an hour at a time. It's just too much. I just get so tired and like. Mentally exhausted and lose perspective and start making weird decisions.
Now, do you listen to other songs in the studio that just sort of...
No.
You don't listen to references? Or
no, never. Don't do any of that. Like, don't listen to the mix once I leave the studio. Don't listen to other songs. Don't do anything.
No, so you just have the song that you're working on.
Yeah.
Take lots of breaks.
Yeah.
So and you don't sort of think, is the bass really, really loud? Or,
I go. It's purely instinct. Like it's all instinctive.
It all sounds good.
Yeah,
I noticed your vintage KLKs.
Yeah, look at that new driver. It's amazing. I noticed. It's kind of badass.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Do they still make drivers for those?
No, that apparently is a driver that it's exactly the same spec as the KLK one, just wasn't made for KLK.
Right.
So, but it's exactly the same spec. So it obviously went out to another manufacturer or whatever. But
it works.
And to be honest, I stay on the KLKs a lot.
Yeah.
And I do monitor quite loud, which is why. Yeah. Right. I like to monitor. Yeah. But then I go on the. I used to.
Was that a Tom thing, the KLKs? Then is that what he is?
Yeah, but now he's on ATCs.
Is he?
Yeah.
Small ATCs.
The SCM50s.
Yeah.
Fucking massive. Well,
I've got hundreds in my house.
Oh, Jesus. I
love
They're
ATCs.
Incredible.
They're brilliant.
They are fucking incredible. But he has a sub as well.
Yeah.
And so beautifully tuned, and like it's just that full spectrum sound. But I can't afford like 25 grand or whatever for a sound.
No, well, I got a second hand. Rather about 10th of that price.
But I just love the KLKs anyway. I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
In here, like some people say, it's quite bass light. I think if you just sit at the back of the room, it's not. So
of course.
At the end of the day, I sit at the back.
You can't ever sit at the back. Yeah, but it's the same in my room. I think most rooms, isn't it? You kind of
exactly. Like if I'm sat here, it's not going to be super bass heavy.
No.
Because that would just be weird. I'd be like, well, the room's bass heavy then, and it's quite awkward. Like I'm not expecting to feel loads of it right here.
No.
It's just, so I you know,
you gotta have the sofa listening.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite nice at the end of the day. Yeah. But I also I feel like. Yeah, I just know what the room sounds like now. And the room
so you're pretty much always on the KLKs, are you then?
I'll go to NS10s during the middle of the day.
Yeah.
For like, to be honest, I've used Oratones forever, and I don't know why I've started using NS10s. There's not really a reason.
I've gone the other way. I've gone from using NS10s to Oratones.
They're amazing. Yeah. They're so great. But I just haven't had them set up for a while.
They're useful.
Yeah, but I just do that for just like rides and like just weird EQ things that you just wouldn't be able to tell on the KLKs. you know, just like boxiness and strange because the KLKs is just a bit more full spectrum.
I always thought of them as being a bit boxy, the KLKs.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard them since about 1997, so what do I know?
But yeah, so it's yeah, that's it really, and then hardly any outboard gear.
Right, I was going to say, what do you use the Effectron for, Mr. Spock?
The Effectron is just, I love it just for like a slap. It's so nice, and then quite a lot I'll use the freeze on it as well and just record it back in.
Yeah.
And just.
Do you run stems after you've done your mix?
Yeah, always. Yeah. I still. Drew here, he does that for me and stuff. But
so you do delegate something.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's because it's so boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how separate are your stems, and what do you do? Do you do
pretty much what's on the board?
What, so each track?
Yeah.
Separately.
The only one I do is lead vocal dry and wet.
Yeah.
All of these will go down with the effects. I'd probably do all drums, and then depending on what the song is and how I feel about it, I'd ask for any others if I need them.
Yeah. Because obviously if they want something tweaks and you haven't got the Effectron sitting there or whatever,
it'll all be printed.
Yeah.
It'll all go down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, apart from that, I don't really use very much outboard gear.
But do you have a few plugins on in the session? I see there's a few on that already.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
But not masses.
No.
But that's as far as it'll go. It's actually not very much, is it?
No.
It's pretty good, actually. Quite surprised by
What sort of things are they then? Are they like reverbs?
In the box, because it's a stereo vocal on this, I'm not using any outboard on it. I'm just using a de-esser. I've got a couple of de-essers and then one specific EQ.
Is that just the standard Waves de-esser?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was using.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. And then
the UAD.
Yeah, I love the UAD.
Yeah.
So good. And I'll compress it really hard.
So do you take a UAD satellite around with you then when you come here? Or
but they've just got UAD here, which is amazing. So good.
Are you fussy about which converters you're using, things like that?
No. Although, no, you can tell the difference with the new Avid stuff. It's night and day. It's so much better. So yeah, I am actually. Yeah. With that, I am a bit weird. If I see 192s, I'm a bit like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? Like, we're going to do this? Yeah. They're just a bit annoying and just sound very good. Well, they sounded good
you're right,
until everything got a bit better.
Exactly, yeah. For 14-year-old technology, whatever it is.
Exactly. It's like not that they did anything wrong.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's
about year 2000, didn't they? I think.
Crazy.
I bought mine. Yeah, I bought mine in about 2005 or something.
Yeah.
When they got the XL had come out.
Yeah. So I mean,
I've relatively recently ditched mine for an Apollo.
Okay.
The new black.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Really?
Sounds
okay.
Better, yeah.
Nice.
And much cheaper.
That's the thing. People were caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
do you have your own rig? Do you have a setup of your own, or
that's coming soon? That's kind of I've been.
So you've moved back from the States.
Yeah.
Are you here now permanently, or
Yeah, and it's great.
Right. So you're living in London.
Yeah.
Are you going to set up your own little room at home for mixing or anything? Or are you still like
no, I don't.
On desks really, don't you?
Yeah, to be honest, I'll never set up at home.
No.
It's just I like to just come to work and then go home.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just feel like it would just take it all away from me.
And has this become your sort of favourite studio? This one?
Yeah, I'm in here all the time.
You don't go? Do you ever go back to Metropolis or anywhere else?
I've been back there a few times. Yeah. It's a lovely room. I feel like I can't get. The room's almost too posh sounding for me.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's just like I can't get like I quite like for my mixes I really like a richness, but I like a bit of a poke to it as well. I don't want it to just sound too soft. And Metropolis I always end up with quite soft sounding mixes.
Oh right.
So I end up redoing that afterwards, which I don't know why, it just seems to be the way the room fit. But then the last time I went in there I realised what it was, so then I just worked around it, which was nice. I think it's more just because I always see it as Tom's room.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
So this is more like home for you, is it?
Yeah, because I. As weird as it sounds, I did this. It's not like I'm going in and being like, my boss used to work here, so can I use it now? It's just like, not that I have any. I sound like a complete arsehole now because Dan Parry works in there all the time and it's Tom's his old boss. But like, you know, it works with Dan. I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
it's not what I wanted to do. And I love being in the studio. Like Strong Room feels, there's like a stability here which I really, really enjoy. And you know, with all the labels being around, with the other engineers who work here being around,
there's a bar.
There's a fucking bar. I can get a beer. If a mix is going really, really bad, I can just go and get drunk. And, no, I'd never do that. But you know, there is just a community here, and you're in the middle of something, and it's nice. Yeah. It feels good.
Going back to delay effect, I was going to ask you about on your Lianne La Havas track "Grow." Is that what's the delay effect on that as it goes into the chorus? If you can remember.
Oh, that was already in there. That was already on the track.
That's what I was saying to Mike on the way here. We're saying, you know, how do we know?
This is the thing,
things in mixes, are they your idea, or was it recorded like that?
No, it was already in there.
Yeah.
It was. Actually, do you know what? I actually think
there's a couple of different things, isn't there? There's like a kind of really obvious slapbacky kind of thing that goes in the first chorus, and then I think in the second verse
it changes
kind
slightly.
Of more atmospheric, feedbacky delay going on as well occasionally.
Oh, do you know what? I just might have a look. I don't even know. I fucking wish I could remember these things. Good old Lianne. Right, let me have a look. God, old bloody mighty.
Because similarly, I was going to ask you about the Mark Ronson track, Crack in the Pearl Part 2. It starts off with like a kind of radio effect.
Yeah.
Is that your idea?
I did it in mastering.
Did they?
Did it in bloody mastering.
Wow. So you mixed it full frequency.
Yeah, I did it full frequency. It's kind of amazing.
And then they made you sound like you.
Yeah, and then made me sound like I can do it. Right, oh, this is really old. Okay. Right, it could be a whole host of things.
Yeah. But you had it in the session, so you've got a session which has already got plugins on it.
Yeah. God. Oh, okay, there's a few things I've done here. Do you know what? I don't even remember doing any of this. Yeah, see, this is what I love doing. This is my favourite thing to do. So here, there's this track, which is just a duplicate of her lead vocal.
Yeah.
And then
lots of plugins on it.
With lots of plugins on it. So basically, it's just a straight duplicate of what I've got on her lead vocal. Yeah. But then it's got a deverb, which is the best reverb. I don't care what anyone says.
Best reverb in the world.
Yeah, fucking amazing. And then that goes into the greatest compressor in the world.
The Bomb Factory.
But it's fast attack, fast release, and I slam it into it. You might be able to hear it.
Yeah, which is coming out, I suppose.
Yeah, it should be fine. I did it in here, so it should be okay. Yeah.
Do you have a sort of template setup then that you kind of just...
not really, I just end up doing the same thing every time. Let's just see if we're...
I can see some meters moving.
Okay, I can't do that one. That's fine. Just not getting... Oh, I know why. So you get that.
Yeah, crazy.
So what you end up with, you get this super reverb, but when she stops singing, it jumps up in volume, so you get a solid band of noise.
Right.
So what so what you actually find in the chorus, she sounds quite dry, but she's not. She's super wet.
Right.
And so, because the reverb doesn't change with the transients of her vocals, it's a constant. You leave her dry, and then there's just a wave of something in the background that you can't pick because there is no dynamic to it. So it's a really, I've always really liked doing it. And
then top tip,
there you go. That's the fucking mix tip right there. And I think this is. Oh yeah. Okay. Fuck. Okay. I remember
backwards.
now. I remember now what I'm doing.
Didn't mean to
because the name of the album's Blood, so
but the blood in my body and
that's I did it.
Fantastic.
So I like using reverse reverb a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most beautiful things in the world.
And how do you do your reverse reverbs then? Do you do that in the box by turning stuff backwards and?
Yeah, turn it backwards, print it, turn it backwards again. So just a double reverse.
Deverb?
Deverb. Yep.
And it was always, when we were doing it on the old days of tape, it was always AMS Ambience. That was always the one because you got the plug-in now. So
yeah, that's I love that thing. It's so good. But yeah, I actually got really into reverse reverb with Arcade Fire actually. Richard from the band, he's like the master of it. He does it in I don't know how he does it. He always does it in the right way, and he always does it at the perfect time. And then he basically he showed me a lot about it and the right way to do it and the wrong, because a lot of people you find will go on like TL space and then go and then hit the reverse, but then it's like it's delayed. It's not correct. It's not an actual reverse into it.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "How'd you do it? How'd you do it?" And I mean, we did it on tape when we were with Arcade Fire, but like
it's more fun.
Yeah.
Reels and
It's fucking great. It's really cool. But yeah. So just because I don't have a tape machine here all the time.
No. Well, I always do it in the computer, but I turn the source backwards, put an AMS reverb on it. And
exactly.
Then turn that backwards.
Yeah. And depending on what I want it to do and all that kind of stuff, like there's a lot of. Let me just show you another one actually. So there's this band that I'm working with at the moment, who are completely unsigned but are very good. It's a band called Wilson, and
Wilson with an E.
Wilson with an E, yeah. Where is it? There's one song where I did a very specific. Fuck, I can't remember what song it is now. Bollocks, that's not a very good example, is it really? But this is like another way. So basically, there's like, depending on what it is, sometimes I'll just print it like audio suite it, and then sometimes I will live bounce it and change the length of the reverb. Then I'll also do a second one where, actually I've got a better one I can show you. I'll change the length of the reverb, but then I'll also I'll do it with a delay, and then I'll do it, I'll do it with loads and loads of different things. And then I'll bounce, and then I'll do automation on all of them. So you feel like there's a delay sometimes, and there's a reverb, and then none of them are definitely distinct. They just do loads of different things. And then I just fill with stuff like that. So this is definitely not an organised session. This is a fucking huge. Oh no, it's actually pretty good. But yeah, like stuff like this. Let me just see actually. Sorry about this.
No, it's very fantastic to be able to see some examples of luxury. We don't get much of this, do we, Mike? No. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on there?
And basically all that is, there's a huge fucking reverb as well, which is definitely deverb. That I know.
What's your deverb setting then? Is that the hall? Or?
Yeah, hall. Just change the length. Yeah. But like this is, this is like a
my darling girl,
super simple song. Right? There's nothing going on.
No reason
but then there's loads of little bits in the background, and all it is her vocal effects differently. There's nothing else I do. So for instance, with that, it's just her vocal with little altar boy on it.
Oh yeah.
And so it's pitched up an octave.
Right.
But with that reverb on it, so the reverb that's getting slammed to hell.
Wow.
So
it's adding some sort of high harmonics, but then rolling all the top off, and then.
Yeah, so basically I've got little altar boy,
big DS.
Then I've got a huge DS at 2K, just everything's gone.
The top. Yeah.
Then everything gone.
Right.
Then the deverb, and then the compressor, and so basically, essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking.
Yeah.
But what you find is with her.
Who decides which way
it's really nice because
turns in the moon.
You get that high, nice after effect, which is
it's perfectly in tune with the vocal.
Exactly, and it never gets in the way because it is the vocal performance. It's just really, really subtle, but like having stuff like that. It's not doing loads. It just does. So it's I don't know. I'm just really into that kind of backdrop because I don't particularly, never really overly loved albums that just sound like they've been made and then they come out. I've always loved albums that don't sound like they're from a particular place. They sound like they're from I don't know, they sound like they're from somewhere else. You can't put it you don't know what it is, but it's not real. Yeah. And like I'm a huge Radiohead fan, and none of their albums, I mean from OK Computer onwards, they all sound like every song has its own particular set. It's put in time, it's put in space, but you don't know what it is. There isn't anything that's there, and I think that means, when you're listening to a song, it helps you think about them. I don't know, it makes it more emotional, it makes it feel more real. Magical. Yeah, it's more magical. It's like, because I think music's kind of the closest thing we've got to like magic, so in all honesty. So absolutely. It's just that's kind of how I kind of try and mix with it. Definitely not magic, but I try and make it. That's what I like to do. Just to make it feel like that. So.
Absolutely. The other thing I was going to ask you about that Mark Ronson Crack of the Ballpark thing. There's some massive sort of phasing in the middle of it. Is that?
Oh my god, that was so
sounds like
funny.
an H3000.
It's a Neutron biphase.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, we put the whole mix to it. And had the biggest crossfades over this fucking thing. So we put the whole mix to it, and then we also did sections where it was just elements of the song that were going through it. Yeah. And then we drive some of them harder. And then there's just like these huge crossfades. It's a
real dense sound, the whole mix anyway, isn't it?
It's really dense.
It's quite almost like a 1970s kind of very tape sort of sound.
Yeah, it was an amazing honour really to mix that song, like Stevie Wonder on fucking harmonica, Kevin Parker on drums, just so many great players and like one song. And
was Mark Ronson looking over your shoulder while you were doing it?
No, left me to it. He's amazing like that.
So the flanging, was that your idea then? Or?
That was Mark. Mark. Yeah, so basically he left me the whole day and then came in, made a couple of tweaks.
And what we need is a massive flanger.
And then we want a massive flanger over that. So I printed all the stems. We basically came in the next day, I think. That's what we did, a couple of days there. Yeah. And then we just with the stems and everything like that. That's what amazing. We did. But yeah, it was great. It's so nice working with him because he's so open to stuff. So. Yeah, he's amazing.
Do you ever do any vocal tuning or get into any of that stuff? Melodyne?
I will use Melodyne. Fucking hell. I've done some of that, yeah. Moving a one string on a guitar in Melodyne, that's always weird. But I do bits and pieces, but I believe that is a lot to do with the producer. So if it's coming, I can hear it's like that. Really, actually, unless there's one bit that really bothers me, I will leave it because I trust the producer and the artist to have made the call already. And I think.
Well, the calibre of projects you're getting, it sounds like it's probably it's fairly well sorted before. Would it be something if you were producing something and you?
Yeah, I'm quite picky about that. And also, I really like autotune. The way Kanye used it was kind of strange, but like, there's things that I've done that I like the way autotune can behave. I think it can be used really in quite cool ways. But it's just got to be right for the context.
But what do you mean, like an exaggerated way of using it rather than just a subtle correction?
Yeah, with that band again, I'll show you another song. Okay. I used very specific autotune on her because it made the song sound better. It made it sound. Right. It was cool. So this is Wilson again.
Okay. Yeah.
This is one that we're close with. I'll just drop you in on a certain point.
Do you hear me, dear? I'm calling for your words tonight. Seas over by the mountain.
Of course, I don't have the auto-tune here. It's just the bounce I'm playing as well. But
Yeah.
basically, if I was,
enough, yeah.
I mean, if we were to talk about the auto-tune, it would have been like, because I know exactly what it looked like. It was that. It was fast.
Yeah.
It was really quick, and would throw her around. So it'd be like.
Do you hear me, dear? I'm calling for you tonight.
And on certain things, it works really, really nicely.
You just stick it in auto mode and
Yeah, it's like.
Will the emperor has come to?
I love the way it softens her vocal. It makes her sound really.
The emperor has come to. See, now he's coughing crimson, kneeling on the floor. Now he's coughing crimson, kneeling on the floor.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's so good. And I also
Do you get into the graphical mode and start moving things around with that? Or?
sometimes, yeah.
Oh, it's your reverb again.
There's my reverb. Yeah. This one's set to 31 seconds. But then also I've got really into, on this album especially, doing stuff like this.
Now he's coughing crimson, kneeling on the floor.
Because it's just, and I use all the MIDI for it, so it's all MIDI input.
So it's MIDI auto-tune.
Yeah, so it's just to create vocoders and stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then you can change, you can do different octaves of stuff, and there's loads of stuff in there. And I just feel a lot of people kind of use it in a really shit way. I just try and use it in like a way I quite enjoy. But yeah, so auto-tune is a weird one. I think it's a dangerous area that people get into. But
do you use Melodyne as well?
Yeah, I'll use Melodyne if I'm gonna tune something properly. I'll use Melodyne.
Yeah, for the more subtle approach.
Yeah, because it's very good the way it behaves.
Going back to sort of the more boring, mundane stuff, parts of mixing. Do you use mix bus inserts? Do you stick the compressor on across the mix and EQ the mix at all?
So the way I've been, for a long time, just through learning from Tom, it was always on the mix insert. But actually, recently, I've kind of got into what I find. As you can see, the faders on the board, they're really high up.
I did. Yeah, I was going to say that. They're sort of at plus 4 dBs on there.
Yeah, they're really high. And
is this sort of part of the philosophy of pushing the mixer a bit? And kind of
this is what I've been working out for quite a while now, and I finally feel like for me personally, I'm working it out. So I don't like it when the faders are too far down, and I also like doing really minimal moves.
Yeah.
So when I'm down here, I'm moving fucking 4 dB by just touching the, and I hate the feeling of that. It's quite scary. So what I'm now doing is I don't have the insert of the mix on the insert. I have it after the master fader.
Oh, okay.
But I'll use the master fader loads, so it'll keep getting brought down and brought back up, so that I'm never overloading. Right. Never overloading to tools ever, obviously, because it's kind of a very scary subject. But then I have everything on a mix in tools. I'll have it as inserts on aux there.
All right.
And so basically, what I find is that I use these faders how I want to use them, but I don't I can still bring the mix level down, and it I've tried it in so many bloody different ways, and this is the way that I like, and this is the way I like the sound.
So so the mix bus is going into tools, and then it's coming back out again for your inserts, and then back in again.
Yeah. So basically,
to print the mix, presumably.
Yeah. So it goes from here into tools, and then in tools it's going hardware insert out, and then back in.
So you don't think there's any negatives about the amount of times it's being converted? Are you working at high sample rates then, generally?
Yeah, I go at 96. Yeah, I like to go at 96. But I think...
you wouldn't want to do that with an old 192, would you, really?
No, you definitely wouldn't want to do that with 192. I think... There's obviously an argument of that, of course. But I also think... how many more fucking times is it going to get converted before someone hears it?
Yeah.
If it means I can mix in the way that I want to mix... then I'm not going to argue with that.
No, the creative thing's more important.
Yeah, for me personally, and...
What's the advantage, though, of going in there to do your hardware rather than plugging the output of that straight into your inserts?
Only purely because some of the inserts on the mix bus can be plugins.
Oh, okay. So you do use the old insert,
But if not, then I would go. Of course, I'd just go straight out of into that. Yeah, and just have it all on one.
So what sort of mix insert plugins and mics do you use? UAD stuff?
Yeah, it's basically just the. Do you know what's really funny? It's the precision equalizer.
Yeah.
The UAD just standard one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just.
It
doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It just does what you want it to do. Yeah. Essentially, I will be getting a curve bender as soon as I can. Because
real
one. Because they're just so beautiful. But I can't afford it at the moment. So.
How much are they then?
$4,000, $5,000, I think.
Is this a remade thing? Is it a Chandler?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the TG12345. Yeah. So, so that'll be.
Because there's a Waves plugin of it, isn't there?
Yeah, which is not the same.
No.
Even though Waves plugins are great, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as that happens, then it will be all straight after that.
Right.
But for now, it's just the only way I can get around it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, that's.
And do you do much? Have you ever done much in the box mixing or use summing mixers or anything like that?
Some mixers, yeah, I've used a bit. In the box mixing, I have done, but I just get bored. I don't think it's very natural.
No.
So with this, it's just like I just mix as fast as I can because it's all what comes into my. Is that me?
Lost.
Oh, it's my lighter.
Oh.
It's what's coming into my head is a lot of information very quickly, so I have to react upon it.
Yeah. Before you forgot what you just
Before
thought.
Exactly. And so if I'm in the box, I can't.
Takes too long.
I can't do it. It's too much, and just to put in an EQ and just to go where you want it to go, and I can just hear the frequency I want to be gone, and I know where they are on these EQs because they're so good, and it's just like. The box.
What are your thoughts on summing then? If you are in the box, would you bring it all out?
Totally, 100%.
What would you put it through?
I don't know.
Anything. Neve.
Yeah, Neve. I don't know. I haven't looked into it far enough.
Obviously, Amy's doing that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to worry about it.
But I definitely would try and summon it if I could in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just even if it was just as much as I could.
A lot of your mixes have quite heavy bottom end snare drum sounds. Would you agree with that statement?
Totally.
Discuss.
Yeah, because that's the best way a snare drum can sound.
I tend to agree. I do like a bit of fun.
Yeah, I don't like thin snare drums.
Right.
They sound fucking horrible. It's just piercing. I like a richness to the snare.
You're quite brave with the level of them on some of your mixes. I always sort of think, bloody hell, it's louder than anything else on the record. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's another thing actually. Some of my favourite mixes in the world have just got things that are just way too loud.
Yeah, I suppose that's
it's
true.
So nice. I love that shit. It's like when an artist is making a statement in a song, if the mix is bland and shit, then what does their point mean? They don't make it. Do you know what I mean? It gets nulled. It becomes
too perfect.
It's just like that's why a lot of pop music today is will just disappear and no one will ever remember it. But like why certain pop music will hold on, because when you listen to the mix, there's something there. There's a viewpoint, and for me in my mixes, I like it when certain things are loud.
But do you not find that sometimes causes you come to blows with people because you've sort of deliberately made something really wrong?
Totally.
And then they go, "Oh, could you turn down that?"
Yeah, totally. And then you fight your cause, and then they take it away, and then they come back and they're like, "Do you know what, you're right." Not that I love being right. It's not. It's not about being wrong or right. I would totally turn it down if they wanted to turn it down. It's their song at the end of the day.
And how do you avoid sort of the low end getting completely overloaded though? Because they're very big and warm, your mixes. But I know if I try and do that very often, you sort of end up, you put it in a CD in the car and it's the speakers. I mean, do you use lots of low end filters on stuff? And, I mean, how do you
I'm just going to look at this mixer.
How do you keep things under control? And do you use things like R-Bass plugins and stuff?
Love R-Bass.
Do you?
Love R-Bass. It's great.
I use that nearly all the time.
It's
now.
fantastic. It's just so good. And I'll use it on sometimes really random things. Like, I used to do it recently on a guitar and then turned the frequency all the way up to the maximum. So and then the intensity was super low. But it just gave the guitar just that little bit of
warmth.
Yeah, just a bit of warmth that it just didn't have.
Body.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But what I do is I'm very careful with the two frequencies I use. So if it's on a kick drum, most likely, if it works, it'll be at 50 hertz.
Right.
If it's on a bass, it'll go to 80.
Right.
But then I find that they don't actually cross. They don't get too. Do you know what I mean? They're obviously close, but they're not crazy close.
Yeah.
And then I EQ pretty hard on the bottom end. I'll literally sit here and scoop out really low frequencies because they're just like. So I will go quite particular on bottom end on the
So effectively, you're filtering out all the sort of
And
do you tend to sort of put filters on things like guitars where you don't really want all that rumble going on?
Yeah, like 150 probably, something like that. And then vocal, that can be a really problematic one, but always just fuck around with that for quite a while.
I mean, that's the sort of thing where it's useful to be able to automate, presumably, the filters on vocals if there's a few pops and things. Do you do stuff in Pro Tools?
Yeah, so I'll duplicate out the vocal.
Yeah.
And then on just maybe a chorus. I mean, it works with any of the frequencies and stuff. Like if you're on a last chorus, sometimes the vocal can just go a little bit more nasal. So you just and then stuck a little bit of 2K or whatever, and then.
So you might just parallel that up another channel and.
No, I would do that purely in the box. Right, just really, really like thin EQs
with a precision EQ or something like that.
Exactly. And then it's just it doesn't do too much, and it just means that you don't have to do too much over here. This can all stay as like the master almost. You know what I mean? It does its thing, and then in the box is like all the really nitty, weird bits.
My next question then: how do you record acoustic guitar? Well, because there's some great. I can't think it was the guy of Arcade Fire who did his solo album.
Yeah.
There's some great sounding acoustic guitar on that. What was I think it was on that.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. That's so funny.
What would you have stuck up in front of his guitar, and how would you have done it? Because everyone has a different way of doing acoustic guitar.
I only like doing one mic, don't I? Doing two mics.
Right.
It would have been Effect 47.
Yeah.
Probably about a foot in front of him.
Yeah.
That's it.
In front of the hole, in front of the neck, in front of the join.
It would have been. Just so when he stood like this, if you were facing him, it would be slightly to the next side of the hole, so slightly below it to the right.
Okay,
that's it. That's the way I do it.
Yeah. Okay, and would you compress to tape?
Yeah.
What would you?
1176.
1176, right? On fast release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quite a lot.
Yeah.
I like compression.
Yeah.
I think if you use compression in the right way, you don't know it's being compressed to some degree. You know what I mean? It just feels like, it feels quite nice. But that album was chaos.
Was it?
We did it. It was all in 6 days.
Right.
And a lot of that acoustic guitar was recorded with a drummer in the room.
Right.
So it was there was just a lot of padding in between. Right. He would just be stood in this little like weird. I don't know. It was it was interesting.
Right.
I'd also always take a DI.
Yeah.
But very rarely use it. But just in case. Sometimes it can add like a definition that you can't get.
Yeah. Would you then line up the timing in Pro Tools?
Totally. Yeah. Make sure all that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you ever do sample triggering to enhance your kick and snares? Have you got a library of things?
No, there's 2 kicks I use and 2 snares I use.
Right. I thought I was telling I only ever use one bass drum sample, but that's reassuring.
Yeah, so one set of them is BD11 Snare 30, which is Tom's classic, which is used for fucking decades.
Right.
For lifetimes.
Where's it from originally, do you know?
Tom made the kick when he was an assistant, and it's the most awful sounding by itself kick drum ever.
Yeah, but it adds something that...
It's just all the frequencies that are really hard to record when you're recording kick drum. And the Snare 30 is, I don't know where he got it from either, but it's really good to add to live snares, really lovely. And then the other ones which I've been using a lot recently is more of like electronic sounding ones. One's called Ill Kick and the other one is just a 707 snare.
Right.
That's what it is. And then, but what I like about the 707 snare is you can EQ it so vastly. And it still sounds like a 707. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You don't start getting this weird characteristic because it's so fake. You know what I mean? You can just EQ shitloads of top end or loads of bottom end, and that's where I got a lot of the fatness from snares from.
Right.
A lot of the time is I'll EQ the live or the snare that I've got to a point. Yeah. And then I'll bolster it with 707 fatness.
Right. And how do you do the triggering? Do you tab the transient and do it manually?
Tab to transient if it's a pretty clean kit. Yeah. Or drum rehab. TL Drum Rehab.
Ah, right, okay. So they've stopped making that, I think, haven't they?
Have they?
I don't think it exists in AAX.
Oh, that's going to be a pain in the ass when I get to it. I'm not there yet, so that's fine.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Oh, bloody hell.
Well, I did have that, and I could never. It kept missing out the odd one for me.
Yeah, it does miss out the odd one.
Which is a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying.
The one I use the Massey one now.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've had that
Massey
one's really
Dirt.
good.
That's very good, yeah.
Okay, I'll give that a try. I like Massey stuff.
Top tip there. Not that you need any of my tips.
I do. I need any tips I can bloody get, please.
Well, how do you cope if you haven't got a Neve then? If you so, what about? Do you ever mix on an SSL?
Don't like this. No.
No,
What
you won't do it.
I just.
Is
honestly,
that just from a practical ergonomic point of view of how you know where all the buttons are on this? So, or is it the Sonics, or is it both things?
But you know, I think it's more a mental state than anything.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it is totally that, and I don't get on very well with the SSL EQs. Sorry. No.
This will be edited out of the video.
No, I think.
And probably the magazine.
Yeah.
if I want lunch.
No, honestly, I just. Yeah, maybe it's possibly an element of naivety, or or just not willing. But
it's just what you grow up on, isn't it? Really, I suppose.
I don't. What's the point in changing it?
Yeah.
I know it sounds really, really lazy,
it's
but
a distraction, isn't it?
The last thing I want is to be, because mixing is hard work. Even though I take a lot of breaks and I get home at the end of the day and I'm really tired and I'm beat.
Yeah,
and the last thing I also want is trying to be working out a desk and the room and how the automation works. And that's for me is a really important thing. I just think you can tell when a mix is not comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the mix sounds really strange.
Yeah.
So.